It is a pleasure to have all of you connecting here tonight for this webinar that we have entitled Advancing Your Career in Today's Football Industry. My name is Diego Valdes, and I'm the Director General at the Sports Business Institute Barcelona. For those of you that may not know what we do at SBI, we are an institute based in Barcelona that specializes in providing executive education courses for those that look to start, advance, and move into leadership positions in the football industry. Tonight, I am joined by Steve Antrobus. Steve is a sports business, sports marketing consultant, and formerly worked as partnerships manager at Manchester City Football Club. Steve, it's a great pleasure to have you connecting here tonight. Welcome.
Thank you, Diego. Yeah, good evening, good morning. I guess we have people from all over now, so not just good evenings. But yeah, great to be here.
Excellent. We're very much looking forward to the conversation tonight, Steve. And you're right, I think we have people from different corners of the world. So in fact, let's find out where you guys are connecting from. So in the chat box, feel free to type in the city or the country where you're connecting from, because this will tell us two things. Obviously the location, but also that the sound is working. So we have Fahad from Saudi Arabia. Welcome. Let's see, who else do we have? Eduardo, Ala from London. Excellent. We have Alfredo from Venezuela as well. We have Rasmus, Sebastian from Barcelona. Hello. So I see we have some familiar names as well. Alex Rojas in Miami, Grecia in the US, Jack in Manchester. Great. So I see that we have people from all corners of the world, Steve. So you're right. I think it's morning, afternoon, night, and probably early morning for some people that are connecting from different parts of the globe. So welcome, guys. It's a real pleasure to have all of you connecting here. Let me just run through a little bit as to the structure of the webinar, and we can get started. So tonight's session is going to be structured in the following manner, and it should last anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes approximately. We will see how we do with the questions, but give or take about 45 minutes to an hour. And the way we've structured it is as follows. Initially, I'm just going to give a brief overview of where we're at today, the impact of COVID-19 and the trends that we're seeing, as well as the opportunities and evidently the challenges that this pandemic has brought upon the football industry and, the world as a whole. After that, we're going to turn it over to Steve, because Steve has ample experience in the business of sports, in the business of football. As I mentioned before, he worked for many years at Manchester City in their partnerships department. So we'll be very keen to hear what Steve has to share with us about his trajectory, how he got involved in the industry, and also find out a few tips about what he has to say as far as what advice to give to those that are looking to either transition, start, or continue their career in the football industry. So Steve, we're very much looking forward to your insight and your expertise and opinion at that point. And afterwards, we're going to briefly talk about our football marketing and management online certificate program, which starts next week. And one of the reasons why I think it's interesting to bring on Steve tonight is because Steve did this course with us last year. And in fact, that's how we began our relationship. That's how we got to know each other. And here we are collaborating. Steve is also a guest lecturer for our master's program. So out of the relationship we built from his enrollment in the course, we're now collaborating and doing different projects. So it's a real pleasure to be able to have that opportunity to collaborate with Steve. And then obviously at the end, we're going to have a Q&A session, because this session has been designed for you guys. What we're going to share here tonight is to provide you the information, the insight that we have based on our experience in the industry, but we're also keen to learn about what are your objectives, what are you looking to achieve in the football industry, and perhaps how we can help you. So Steve, very much looking forward to the session. So I'll begin with a little bit of an overview of where we're at, and then we'll turn it over to you. So that sounds good to you?
Cool. Yeah, perfect. No problem. Yeah.
Excellent. Right. So I just want to touch upon briefly as to where we're at in the industry, because evidently we're in a situation that is very different, that is transforming the football industry because of the challenges that are being presented. But I also want to stress that we tend to hear a lot about the challenges. We tend to hear a lot about the difficulties that we're facing, which are evident. But I think there's also opportunities, and we're going to talk about those opportunities, because looking at those opportunities will allow us to see what's ahead and how we can become integral players if we want to form part of the football industry, once things begin to go back to normal, hopefully in the near future. So a few trends that I'm going to go through here that we've prepared for you guys, and then we're going to turn it over for, as I said, a more open conversation with Steve. So evidently, as you probably know, this pandemic has brought upon a crisis. And the main reason for this crisis is the instability of the revenue streams. In many cases, the collapse of the revenue streams. So just to give you an idea, we have some numbers here that we've prepared. And according to Spanish sports business outlet Palco 23, Palco 23 is the name of this outlet, there's been a drop of 500 million euros in the football industry for the 2019-2020 season. So what does this mean? Well, evidently, as we all know, match day revenue has collapsed. We're seeing football behind closed doors or with a very limited amount of spectators. The broadcasting deals have also been reduced in many cases, and it's been a struggle, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, to try and get the competitions up and running so that those contracts would remain in place. And in many cases, such as in the French league, we're seeing that this is a challenge despite football being played. And evidently as well, the commercials, sponsorships, it's a bit more of a challenge now to find new sponsors, and those that are being renewed sometimes are being renewed for lesser amounts than what they were before the pandemic. Couple of clubs, Real Madrid and Bayern Munich, are, according to some reports, the only clubs out of the champions in European football that have turned over a profit. So all other clubs have been struggling financially. Properties such as La Liga have lost out on over 100 million euros on audiovisual rights. But as Ferran Soriano said in October at the Leaders Conference, it's not all doom and gloom. There is an opportunity ahead, and those that prepare themselves for this opportunity are the ones that are going to have chances to play a role in the next step of this pandemic as we move forward. So this is regarding revenue streams. And then another area that I think it's important to highlight is digital. And the reason I put the picture here of FC Barcelona is because Barca recently communicated their digital strategy. And what they've done is they've developed new platforms to reach fans directly without intermediaries. So here is an example of a club that is trying to do things differently despite the challenges that we're facing in today's pandemic. So digital plays an important role because without fans at the stadium, without sponsorships being able to be, activated in situ at the stadium, digital plays an important role. And a club like FC Barcelona is an example of a property that is taking advantage and creating a fan-centric approach in the digital ecosystem to be able to continue engaging with their fans despite the fact that the Camp Nou is empty, for the matches. So it's about attracting global audiences. It's about creating entertainment and gathering data to understand who their fans are, how they behave, and how can they reach out and tap into those fans from around the world. So, venturing into areas such as esports. Some of you may be familiar with the Barca Studios part of their business model that they've enabled, where they have documentaries. So, in other words, they've created a system, a digital ecosystem that allows them to be in contact with their fans, despite the fact that they're not attending the stadium. So this is something else to keep in mind. The digital side of the industry is a very important one, especially now when we don't have fans at the stadium. And, if you want to learn more, feel free to just go ahead and Google the Barca digital strategy, and you're going to see a little bit more about what Barcelona are doing and how they're, leading the way from a digital standpoint, despite the crisis that we're facing. Then a couple of other points before we continue. I think social responsibility is another area that we're starting to see more and more of an impact in the football industry. So as we've come to a crisis where now we see that we're struggling in the industry, it's a moment for clubs, players, and all the other stakeholders to, take on some responsibility. And the reason I put Marcus Rashford here is because I'm sure you all know what he's done in this current challenge that we're facing with the pandemic. And of course, he's become a voice for social justice with the program of meals that he led and started championing in England. So the free meals program for schools. So in other words, here's an example of a football player that saw the community struggling, that saw the fact that this pandemic is impacting a lot of people around the world, and especially those in his country and his community. And he's led the way in being more than just a football player, really. He's taking on a cause. And I think we're going to start seeing more of this, clubs taking on this responsibility, because sport is a way to connect with the community, with society as a whole. And we're going to see this trend more and more. Just another example with FC Barcelona, there was a news story a while back ago that they were looking to commercialize the naming rights of their stadium, the Camp Nou. And one of the things they said is that whatever that they were able to bring in from that would be donated to COVID research. So more and more properties are beginning to see that fans care about how their football clubs and their players that they follow are behaving in these times of crisis. So this is another trend to keep in mind as we move forward, with this pandemic, and hopefully see the end of it, sometime soon in the next year. But another thing to keep in mind there is that, yes, this element of social responsibility is another one we're going to see. And then finally, the last point that I wanted to make here was that the industry is looking for new leaders. The leaders of tomorrow are those that have a different mindset, those that are able to think creatively, those that are able to work as part of a team, those that are able to find solutions for the challenges that we're facing today. Because let's face it, we are in a difficult situation. The football industry, society as a whole, is struggling with, this pandemic. Hopefully we'll see the end of it, as I said, in the coming year, but there's no guarantee. What there is a guarantee for, however, is the industry looking for those new, executives, new people that want to take part in it, but that understand the current situation and that have that mindset to, look for solutions, form part of a team, and also be able to have those values of solidarity, of empowerment, and being able to deal with challenges. So we're going to talk more a little bit about that and different profiles that the industry looks for a little bit later on when we talk about the Q&A. But these are just some points that I wanted to put across before I turned it over to Steve, because I think it's important to understand where we're at, what are the challenges we're facing, what are the opportunities, and how can we move forward and play an important role in an industry that is bound to rebound, because football is not going away anytime soon. And we've seen this when the pandemic hit us, how much of a desire there was for football to come back and for sport and for live entertainment to be back. So now that we have it back, it's just a matter of slowly going back to the new normal. So Steve, with that, I wanted to turn it over to you, because obviously you've had plenty of experience in the football industry yourself. So perhaps a good moment to bring you in now is to find out a little bit more as to how you got started in the football industry, Steve. So tell us a little bit more about your journey.
Well, first of all, thank you for the intro. And secondly, lovely, great information you presented up front there. Really, really interesting. So personally, I'm one of these people who I kind of fell into football. So I had a normal job. I was an account manager for a brewery, running around my part of the world, selling beer, basically. Enjoyed it, but then I got seconded to a project which was around some sponsorship properties that the brewery had, and that sort of opened my eyes for the first time to the beginnings of the sort of part of the business of sport, if you like. So I started to pique my interest, and of course it's pretty cool. It's interesting. Get to go to games, get to see, maybe get up close to players, whatever sport it was. And then circumstances were that I actually ended up moving out to Spain and lived in Madrid. And through connections, I was introduced to an agency, communications agency, and that's where I began to see the other side of sponsorship, which was the strategy, the thinking, the why do we sponsor race? Why do we sponsor game? Why do we sponsor concept, idea, whatever it was we were looking at with our clients? So then I began to sort of build on that general interest, beginning to understand how this can work particularly for brands. And through that, I got my sort of introduction to football, because some of the programs we developed when I was at the agency were football centric. So we got to meet, some great players, Spanish players and managers. Del Bosque we were working with him, Juan Mata back in the day. And then I began to see the power of football, if you like. Whilst I was there, I was very fortunate to be approached by a headhunter who'd seen my updated LinkedIn profile and said, we have a team in the UK, quite famous, not been doing that well. Looks like things are going to change for them. They've had some recent investment, and would I like to have a conversation? And that's kind of where it went. And so then, as to you say, I then spent 8 years at Manchester City in two departments, if you like, but multiple roles. So I joined a team when job title was Client Services Manager, I think, or Client Services Account Manager, and that was basically the day-to-day interaction with the club sponsors. And at that point, my personal responsibility was quite broad, and it was day-to-day, it was match day, it was looking after their guests, it was moving things around, it was making sure that the LED pitch side was right. It was the sort of the basic delivery, if you like, and then moved my way up until my last role within the partnerships department. I managed the relationships that Manchester City has with the portfolio of sponsors based out of Abu Dhabi. So Etihad as title sponsor probably took up 70-80% of my time, but then the other suite of sponsor partners out of Abu Dhabi. So I spent a lot of time traveling backwards and forwards, trying to create new initiatives with those partners. And then, as most people will know, Manchester City became part of City Football Group, which then led to my introduction to the A-League, the MLS, because of the teams that City Football Group had in those leagues. And then by the time I left, we were up to 8, 9 different teams around the world. So my sort of trajectory on the partnership side, that was that. And then I saw an opportunity through getting to see how stuff was working, to move in a commercial role, but move into what we would term inside as a football role, football facing. So I sat within Brian Marwood's, at that point, CFS, which was all about City Football Services, was all about selling football services globally. So I sat within the team there. My particular area was supporting our sponsors and partners with access to football education, so particularly football schools, which gave me further exposure, further understanding of the football world. I sat in the office where discussions around player purchases, football strategy, when the discussions were about whether Pep would be joining or not, through to the desire for consistent football. So I had a good run. Got to meet some incredible people who I now consider very good friends, and then come towards the end of that, it was the time maybe to move on, and so now I'm hoping that I can use the knowledge, the expertise, the contacts, and the network to offer my sort of services out on a consultancy basis, which, as you mentioned before, which means now I'm working with clubs, clients, sponsors in Australia, in Spain, in the UK, in the Middle East. A couple of conversations with people in Africa. So the world has opened up. So I mean that in a nutshell really is my progression. But yeah, I kind of got lucky. I fell into it. But the whole thing was I took the opportunity that was there, I guess.
Yeah, no, very interesting. We talk to a lot of people and we always ask them, about their path and how they started, and it's very interesting because everybody has a unique path, and there's no sort of cookie cutter type of approach. Everybody goes a different way, but it's always interesting to hear how every individual that established himself or herself in the football industry was able to carve their own way. So very interesting to hear about that. Now, Steve, I think a lot of the people that are joining us tonight also want to know about what would be some tips or what would be some advice. Obviously, you've spent a lot of years in the football industry. I'm sure you've worked with a lot of teams. So what would be some advice? What would be some type of advice or tips that you would give to people that want to start out or are looking to transition from another industry? What do you think is important to have on your background, if you will, to be able to be an asset in the football industry?
I guess there's two fundamentals, and these are probably the same, irrespective of industry, irrespective of your speciality, whatever it is you want to focus on. But really, it's about building a network, because that network will at different times help guide you, open doors, provide introductions. And if I'm honest, right at the beginning, and in fact, it wasn't until I had the headhunter reach out to me when I was in Madrid that I even really thought about that, because I just kind of did my job and got on with it, did it as well as I could, and then I discovered that I was lucky that was noted. I had the benefit, particularly, of speaking another language. I mean, there's always, is there a differentiate? Can you differentiate yourself from other people if it's a case of you actively looking for a job? But how can you look different? But it was building the network. Once I moved into City and the world opened up to me, I'm now fortunate enough to be in a position where senior figures within the club, but those people themselves have moved on, and that network that I've created has meant that I can see opportunity. I can talk to people about potential opportunity. I can keep myself on their radar. If I wanted to go back into something sort of full-time, permanent, that network is vital. And there was, I remember there was it was actually on a diversity and inclusion training day, but somebody said to a younger member who was just joining and saying, one of these little networking tricks is find the person who's got the job that you want in 3 to 5 years down the line, and connect with them. And you'll probably find, in most cases, because you're not a threat, you'll probably find that there'll be, especially with LinkedIn today, get in touch with them. You could ask them how they got to where they are, or you could ask them what are you seeing in the world, or you may offer them your insight. And my experience is, on the whole, people respond. If you get, don't just connect and walk away. Try and engage in a conversation. So build your network up. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't mean that the first person you connect with is going to offer you a job. But I personally had circumstances where I would be in my position traveling, and I would look to see who was in the city that I was going to, or which sports organisations were important or interesting, and I would reach out. Sometimes there was nobody that wanted to see me, and other times, I was back to back with meetings that weren't necessarily about what I was there to do, but it was build the network. And then the other bit, and I guess the most pertinent, is keep learning, be inquisitive, find out whatever it is that you enjoy, whatever it is that is your passion. try and difficult to be the expert. It's a bit depending on where you are in life, but try and find out what you can. Be inquisitive. There's lots available on the internet. It's an unbelievable resource. You do need to make sure you're fact checking it. But then, of course, you do have Sports Business Institute. Join the right courses. Do a little bit of background. Look into what these courses offer. Who's running it? What is the offer? Does it align to what you want? In my case, and I'm sure we can go on to it a little bit later on, I looked, and there are myriad of opportunities to learn. Some of them are free, some of them you have to pay for it. If you can make that investment, great. But if not, there are other alternatives. But it was, the two would be build that network and keep learning, be inquisitive, and hopefully those two together would put you in a position where maybe you get lucky, because it's tough to get in. It's tough to get in.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's a competitive industry, but I agree. I think the points that you mentioned are on spot, and ones we constantly look to optimize for our students, which of course is providing that network, providing those opportunities for people to come together and collaborate and form part of a community that is there to help each other out, and as you said, understanding about how the industry works, understanding the relevance, and in many cases, courses or certificate programs allow you to do that because they provide that insider knowledge that perhaps you don't have without having that experience in the industry, right? Now, Steve, I mentioned. Mm-hmm.
No, I was going to say, but also the other part is actually if you join a course, that can help build your network. Especially if you're starting out, you'll find you're on a course with a number of people in exactly the same position as you, but also you'll find that there will be other people that can help you because maybe they're going back to study to revalidate what they're doing, whatever. So the learning process itself could help build that network.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, I mentioned at the outset, Steve, that the way that we got to know each other was when you took part in our football marketing and management program. So, tell us a little bit as to why you decided to join the course, and what experience did you get out of it after completing it, after those 2 months that the course lasted.
Okay, so I guess on my, and again, this will be a personal reflection in the sense that what I was looking for was some sort of validation of broad concepts, because I'd been working within one club. We were very fortunate that we would have access to any number of experts or support mechanisms, and if you work in a recognized place, maybe some doors open that others wouldn't. So I had the ability to sort of connect and learn and reach out. But the thing I wanted at the point that I was at, and when I was really making the commitment to start to build up my own consultancy, was just revalidate the learning and make sure I was up to date, and make sure I was aware of some of the issues, the challenges, the opportunities, as you highlighted at the beginning here, because sometimes you end up in a little bit of a bubble. Sometimes you only know what you have in front of you. So I just wanted to validate that what I did know was relevant, and I had some currency, if you like, but also test myself, just make sure I was up to date. And through your course, and I think I said to you during it, your ability to remember the intricacies of player transfers and sponsorship deals would suggest to me you're probably doing the wrong thing. You need to get back into some agency world. But it was that for me, for example, was I'd forgotten about that because I was worrying about what the Manchester City new betting partner was. I didn't really worry about what everybody else was doing. I wasn't involved directly with many specifics around player IP, for example, and obviously there was a section where we talked about the power of the athlete. I worked with the athletes. I did a personal tour with Vincent Company across Asia, which was amazing. But again, when you're doing it, you sometimes almost forget why you're doing it, what the objective is. You're just trying to get through it. When joining the course gave me the opportunity to reflect on why I was doing the things I was doing and whether or not my thinking was relevant. So that was part of it. But then the other part was, and I said it before, is building the network. I mean, in my cohort, I think, did you say Grefia is here live on today?
I think we have a couple people from the course when you did it. I think Grecia is here, San Juan as well. So there's a couple people.
Okay, fantastic. So yeah, now we're still in touch. We have a WhatsApp group. People share different pieces of interest. Some of us have interest in legal matters. Others have interest in general sports marketing. So we created this network. I was probably ostensibly the person with the most direct experience, but I was learning every session. And when you hear a point of view from somebody who is trying to break into sport, their perspective is different and potentially even a little bit purer than your own, because you've been polluted by the way it works, and you forget that actually, you know, the people you're trying to talk to are the people who are not in your little bubble. They're the people outside. So it was a combination of personally reflection, revision, checking I did know what I thought I knew and checking it was relevant, and then also helping and continuing to build up the network.
Right. No, very interesting to hear your take on your learning experience. Fantastic. Well, what I'll do now is I'll talk a little bit more about the course, and then we're going to open it up for your questions, because Steve and I are going to remain here for some time to answer your questions, because I'm sure you guys have some questions as to how you want to break into the industry or move ahead or develop in it. So we'll talk about that in the Q&A section that we're going to start in just a moment. But for those who want to know a little bit more about the course that Steve was mentioning before, it's our Football Marketing and Management online course. It's a certificate program that lasts 2 months, and we're going to start it next week. Now, just briefly as to what you can expect from this course, as Steve was saying, industry-specific knowledge. Because the first thing you need to know is that if you want to work in the football industry, you've got to understand how it works from the inside. So as Steve was saying, how the contracts are signed, how the players negotiate with brands, how agents negotiate with clubs, all sorts of intricacies that are important to understand, because if you want to move into this space and you don't have this knowledge, you're going to be in a disadvantageous position to those that do have it. So that's the first step. Secondly is network, as also Steve highlighted before. It's important, it's essential to build a network in the industry, because it's all about relationships, like in any other sector, but particularly in sports where it's more of a closed sector. It's who you know that is going to be, at the end of the day, very relevant and important for you. So what we do here is we create a community of students and alumni, and we create WhatsApp groups, as we mentioned before, so that not only are you doing an online course on your own, but you're forming part of a community that allows you to tap into people that are already working in the industry. Some are in a similar position, but everybody with the same objective. So that network can prove to be, very valuable moving forward, and it's something that at SBI, we very much take on very seriously. In fact, just to give you a little bit of an idea, we have students now that have done our courses from, I think, last time we checked, 92 countries. So we're getting close to 100 countries worldwide. And that means that we have a connection with a lot of people around the world, many who are already working in the football industry, such as Steve, who did the course. And now, as I said, he collaborates with us in our master's program. So our relationship that we built from him doing our program, now we're expanding, we're doing different collaborations, such as him being here tonight for this webinar, which we are obviously very thankful for his time. And also, the guest lectureships he does for us in our different courses and our master's program. Then, another area to think about is mentorship, career guidance. Many of you perhaps are thinking about your next step. You want to move forward in the industry, but don't necessarily know where to go or how to approach it. At SBI, what we do is not only do we offer you the course, but we also offer you assistance. So if you want to learn more about, where you're at today and where you want to be and how to fill those gaps, we can set up an individual session with you, have a chat, and just get to know a little bit more about your background, because we are believers that all our students should not be transactionary operations. We want to keep in touch with our students. We want to know what they're doing. And in fact, many of them go on to positions in the football industry and then come back and give, webinars, guest lectures for our community. So it's all about creating that network, but also being able to help those that are starting out, or perhaps transitioning as to their next step. We work as well with a lot of professional footballers, and they're also looking for their next step. And in many cases, we're able to provide some advice as to, what are the different options in the football industry. I mean, I won't go into the whole course curriculum, but here on screen you see some of the main areas that we touch upon. And as Steve mentioned, it's important to have a broad overview of the industry, because you may have experience in media, or you may have experience in marketing or in another discipline. But if you want to have a well-rounded profile in the industry, you should be able to understand different elements in different areas. So, we get a lot of people that have experience, say, for example, in media or in marketing, but have never done any type of work, or are not familiar with player representation, or have not worked events, or haven't been as much in touch with the new digital trends. So it's about complementing your profile with other areas and other disciplines that will then allow you to have opportunities across different sectors of the football industry. So that's what the course aims to do, to provide you different alternatives as far as areas in the industry that you can learn about to potentially leverage your previous skills, or learn new ones that will allow you to be more competitive in the job market. Finally, just a screenshot here of just a few of the institutions that we've collaborated and worked with across for the number of years that we've been operating. SBI has been in operation for 8.5 years. So we've built in those years a lot of relationships. We have a lot of people that working in clubs, federations, leagues, properties, brands, etc. So when you join SBI, you also have an opportunity to tap into a network. And like we always say, our success depends on the success of our students. So we know that very well, and we keep that in mind to be able to help you as much as we can. And we put in the hard work, the 50% of the work we put in to help you, and the other 50% is, it's you guys that have the motivation and the drive. And with that, it's usually a winning formula to at least be in a position to optimize your opportunities. So you can count on our support, and you'll see that a lot of these organizations have entrusted us, which means that this is not just our community, but it's the community of our students, and the one that we're able to, offer for, relationship building and network, as we talked about before. Anyway, I don't want to spend the whole webinar tonight talking about the course, because as I said from the outset, this session is for you. We've prepared it for you. So just finally, if you want to learn more about the course, it starts next week. Go to our website at sbibarcelona.com. You can enroll directly from the website. There's live lessons every week, which are held on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. local time in Spain, 7 p.m. UK, 2 p.m. if you're in the U.S. Eastern time zone. So 8 p.m. Spanish time, and if you cannot attend for any reason, they're all recorded. You have an online campus where you have all the resources and go into, the materials. So it's a program that is very flexible and compatible, whether you're studying, whether you're working, and you can do it in parallel to that. Anyway, that said, Steve, I think it's a good opportunity now to turn it over to our audience for some questions. So if you have a question for either Steve, myself, or just in general that you want to put out there, feel free to type it in the chat box, and we'll be answering them. So let me have a look here at some of the ones that are coming up. So 1 second, because I saw a couple already. So Eduardo Meneses. Eduardo says, is there any possibility to join that WhatsApp group in order to continue nourishing myself with your information? So let me see if I can bring you on, Eduardo, so we can get to know you a little bit better. So hopefully you have your microphone activated. So 1 second. Eduardo, let me find you here. And we'll bring you on live so you can ask your question, because I think you had a couple points to make. So Eduardo, I'm going to unmute yourself and unmute you, and hopefully you can speak and pose your questions to us. So Eduardo, can you hear us? And is your mic on?
can you guys hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome. Yeah. I was wondering. I was only wondering if there's any possibility, to be part of the networking that you guys have already built within the other students. I'm constantly evaluating the possibility of enrolling into a master's degree in Europe. Currently, I'm in Mexico, as I told you before. But I still haven't decided what is the correct school, the correct path to follow in order to enroll myself into the football world. I have a bachelor's degree in communication, but I have never done anything, professionally speaking, only hobby speaking, related to football.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'll get to your question in a moment, but what area of the industry would you like to get into? Is there any particular sector that you've identified that you want to get into?
For example, from the options that you listed from the course, I think that player representation and branding, and also football marketing, those are, I think, the areas in which I could start, giving the most out of myself, because that's what I majored in. But eventually, I would also like to get into the specific of the sports, studying a little bit about technical direction, all of those things that are more into what happens on the field. But I would love to begin with player representation, getting to know the inside world before getting into the field. That's kind of like my idea. Right.
Okay. Let me unpack this, and then I'll also ask Steve to come in and maybe provide some advice based on what you've told us. But I'll unpack a little bit about what you said initially. So if you're looking to do a master's degree in sports management or in football business, etc., this is an excellent opportunity. I mean, I think it's a very good pathway to take. In fact, as you know, we have our own master's program, and we run it successfully every year. What I would say as well, though, is if you're going to make an investment that requires obviously a little bit more money to invest when you do a master's, you want to be sure that you select the right program. And obviously, there's so many great schools out there in the market that if you do your research, you'll find the right one for you. Having said that, however, I think one of the advantages that this course offers is that you can make an initial step into education without necessarily committing to a program that you're going to have to invest 5, 10, 20, 30,000 euros or dollars. That it's a major investment that obviously you'll have to consider. So one of the options that this course provides is that it allows you to understand the industry as a whole in a very hands-on manner for a competitive, at a competitive price point. So something to think about. Now, regarding your other question, as far as joining the WhatsApp group, these WhatsApp groups, one of the elements that makes them valuable is that we create a community from the people that do the program. So that's why we remain exclusive in those WhatsApp groups for people that do the courses, because they know each other, they participated, and they've engaged. So they're not open to outside participants, precisely because of the reason that we want to ensure that that this is part of the group that forms the course. But that said, Steve, do you have any advice for Eduardo as to potential advice or avenues that he can consider based on what he told us?
Well, Eduardo, you said you do. Forgive me, you're in Mexico, but did you say you were doing some volunteering or something, or did I imagine that?
Yes, no, more than volunteering, it's kind of like a hobby. I've worked with some podcasts with some friends, but that's pretty much what I've done so far. Been doing that for about a year and a half now.
Okay, but that's not directly related to the sort of the football business, no?
100% related, but non-monetized.
Okay, fine. So I guess because you kind of the difficult bit is always breaking in. So a couple of things that I would say broadly, generally, is make sure you're up to date on the area that you do want to specialize in, or find out how that part of the business works. Because actually, now I say this without having any sort of detailed background about you personally, obviously, but player representation Why is that interesting? What's the draw for you? Is that really what you want to do? Because actually maybe broader marketing would be better. And within a football club, you probably would have exposure to that part of the business. So you know, if you look for a very specific entry point, that actually reduces your possibilities. So I'm not commenting on your personal circumstance or anything like that, but I would suggest to keep your mind open to opportunities, because there could be an opportunity within a club locally in the community program that they run, and through that most clubs would use their players or their players would offer their services to support the community outreach programs. That therefore might give you the opportunity to work with players to understand what their world is like, which then could lead you on. So I guess sort of very broadly, if you're starting and you are laser focused, in some cases that's perfect. But if you're not sure, keep your options open. And then the next bit is there a club local to you that you can reach out to? And do they have an intern program? Do they have the opportunity for you to gain some work experience? Do they need support on a match day? I can tell you of a number of people at Manchester City, one who's now the exact job title I forget, but he's director of communications in New York for New York City FC. He started as a match day volunteer steward. So he went into the club, working on match days, made himself available, did the hard yards in that way, moved into the communications team, found his way, and he's now the director of communications at New York City. So, what's the entry point? It's very difficult. When people are in, they want to hold on because it's cool. It feels cool, and certainly externally people think it's cool. So a couple of pieces in there for me is, one, I wouldn't narrow down unless you are an absolute specialist. And secondly, are there opportunities local to you? And you may start in grassroots. You may start in supporting a local club, just getting the experience of what it's like to be around football. Does that help at all?
Yes, very much. I think that the advice is great. I really appreciate it, and also appreciate everything else that has been said. I think I will consider it a lot. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. No problem.
Thank you, Eduardo. Good to have you on the webinar again, and hopefully we see you in one of our programs soon. I'm sure you won't regret it. You'll be part of a community, and like I said before, from one Mexican to another, you can always count on our support. Great to have you on the call, Eduardo. All the best. All right, we have another question from Pedro Pavia. So let me go and see if we can find Pedro, and we can unmute him. So Pedro, 1 second. Pedro. He's still on here. Maybe he's no longer online because I'm not seeing Pedro. Oh yeah, here he is. Okay, Pedro, I'm going to unmute you and go ahead and ask your question. So, Pedro.
Thank you very much. Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Hi, Steve. How are you? Yes, my question is actually, how do you see the growing trend in the multi-club ownership? Because it seems to me that, especially during the COVID time, a lot of U.S. investors going to buy clubs all over the world. So it seems to me that the world it's going this direction. And also specifically working for the City Group, being on the marketing side, if during your time with the City Group, did you face any challenges on the sport washing rumors all the time, all the money coming from the Middle West? We always have that kind of concern. So was that an issue at all, or was never part of your marketing challenge that I assume a lot to face at the City Group?
Okay, yeah. So I'll dive straight in. So the multi-club thing is actually it's not new. It's been around. There are clubs that have been involved with other clubs at various levels all the time that I've been a fan of football. You understand later on, maybe not at the time, but certainly in the pre-Premier League, you would see young players from one club going on loan to another club. Then you uncover that there's a relationship between the ownership in some way, shape, or form. So, what City Football Group have done is kind of formalised that, because inside it are really two sides. One is sort of teams that are built to win the leagues that they participate in, and the other part of it is all about player development, really. So that's not really much different to back in the day when teams would have in Spain. You have it's existed where professional teams will have teams in the Segunda division. They can't be promoted because the main team is in the first division. You could say that those are multi-club operations. Seville have just talked now in the last few months about looking at doing investing overseas to broaden their horizons, and that could be from a marketing perspective and football perspective. So I don't think it's necessarily that new of an idea, but maybe City have the resources, which kind of goes on to your second question, have had the resources to develop it to where they have. And then specifically on the sort of, did it make any difference to us from a marketing perspective? The absolute truth is no. The money came in through the ownership. The investment was massive, and truthfully, honestly, on a day-to-day basis, it made no difference. We still had to work hard. We still had to prove that what we wanted to do would work. We still had to engage the partners and sponsors that we had correctly. We still had to challenge them. They didn't just rock up and start using Manchester City as a marketing tool. We had to help them and guide them. That some of them hadn't had that kind of exposure before. So lots of people worked very hard. It wasn't a case of just throwing money at an idea and it's going to work because money's been thrown at it. There was a lot of hard work. So sort of very specifically, I say on the marketing perspective, for me, it didn't have a direct impact. Did it? In fact, maybe what it would have done if there was an impact is make us a little bit more careful about the approach, and the communications obviously was maybe a little bit more careful. But honestly, day to day, there was no direct impact.
All right. Thanks very much, Steve. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you for the question, Pedro. Good to have you here on the webinar. Right. So feel free again to type your questions in the chat box. It's a good opportunity to talk to Steve. If you're looking to get into the football industry, if you want some career advice, we're here. And obviously, Steve, somebody that's worked in a top club like Man City for a number of years, very good person to get his insights. So, don't be shy and type your questions because it's a good opportunity. Grecia, who of course we both know, Steve is online as well. So Grecia, let me unmute you because she has a question more on the personal side as to how you ventured into the football industry, if I'm not mistaken. So let me find Grecia and unmute her mic. So 1 second. Here we go, Grecia. Oops. There we are. So Grecia, you should be able to speak now with your
Hello,
mic.
can you hear me right?
Yes.
Hello, Grecia. Hello.
Hello, Steve. Hello, Diego. It was a great webinar. I have a question for you, Steve. I was going to ask you, is there did somebody, like when you started into the business, into the football world, did they ever give you like any advice that you might remember, like some phrase that that it kind of like stood on your mind for like the past, I don't know, few years? Or is there like something that you remember like quite vividly that you said, oh, okay, I think I'm going to stick with this for the rest of probably, I don't know, my football career? I don't know if that's something that perhaps you had.
Yeah. That's a good question. I know it's unbelievable when you can see me on the screen, but I'm 50 years old. I know that's unbelievable because I don't look 50 years old. But
It is, right?
I got into football. I joined Manchester City when I was 40. No, 39. So I got to it late. But I didn't know that's where I was going. Honestly, I didn't have that objective. But the one thing I would say is once I got there, you realise that working in football is working in anything. It's a job. It's you have to be committed. There are a number of people I've met who fell by the wayside, especially people who came in as sort of let's say in junior roles. They thought that just saying that they worked in a football club was basically that was it. They had realised their dream, and then you think, well, why? What dream are you fulfilling there? You need to just working for a football club isn't enough because it will be difficult. As most clubs work on a very minimal human resource number. There's not hundreds of roles. There's not great churn. It's difficult to get in, but you need to be good. You need to work hard. You need to make luck, but you need to network. You need to keep learning. You need to once you're there, that's not it. And if you one of the things now that I'm basically saying all that's given me the opportunity to think. One thing that I would say is, and again this is personal, don't work for the club that you support because the day after the game that you should have won, that you lost in the 90th minute, and you've got to go back into work the next morning and carry on and act like a normal employee. You know how difficult that is when you don't work in a football club when that happens. But if you work in that same football club the next morning, I would call myself a fan of Manchester City, but they're not my team. I became a fan because I was working there, and I had some great experiences. But I saw people who were true blues on a Monday or after losing to Manchester United in the derby, which generally happened. The next couple of days, their level of work went down. So I mean, maybe not everybody even gets the opportunity to, but I would say one small thing is maybe try not to work for the club that you support because it can hurt you.
Well, thank you. You actually answered my other question, which was if there's like a stigma of working in football, which you did. We all think it's all fancy and stuff, and it's not like that. It's just I suppose a regular job with just in the football world.
Of course it is. I mean, exactly. You're going to have the problems. And you may politics. You may not get on with somebody you work with. You might not like your boss. It's exactly the same as anywhere else. So, yes, it's true. You have the highs of being maybe at an important game, or I was fortunate enough to travel on tour, so I got to see the world. Thank you to Manchester City. Amazing. But being away from home for 3 weeks. Well, some people might love that. I have a family, so there was a strain within that when I travelled, and you're jet lagged. But nobody cares when you land. You're representing the club, and you need to be in that meeting. You need to be sharp. You need to be fresh. Now that sounds like some terrible thing that was imposed, but trust me, and I'm sure Diego can confirm, is even the travelling around the world, which sounds rock and roll, it's hard. It's hard work. It takes its toll. Because you've got to be on point when you walk into that meeting, because probably this is an important meeting or you wouldn't have travelled that distance. So, you've got to be on point when you land, and that's tough. So even at that level of, that's pretty cool. I'm saying to my family, I'm flying to Australia for 3 weeks. I landed, and the next morning or next day, I was in front of partners, and then you have a week later we signed Raheem Sterling. He flew straight down, and the next day on landing, got off the plane, drove to the hotel, and we put him in front of some guests from Etihad. So all of us sitting there, exhausted, but he's got to think, okay, yes, I accept it was really cool, and I'm very fortunate to have been in that position. But it's hard work, and there were people who don't get on with jet lag, and they struggled. And then, you come back to the office and life carries on, and, you have the problem with your boss and you've got to do that report. And why haven't you done that report? And this is not the report I wanted. And why does that data say this? How are we going to present this bad news to the sponsor, to the partner, whatever, if you're in the legal team, there's a challenge with a player who wants to move, but his contract says X, Y, Z. It's just the same as any other job. It has its pressures.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. It was nice hearing from you guys.
Thank you, Grecia. I would just add to what Steve was saying. If you were asking about one piece of advice. I remember hearing a conference about a couple of years ago. A guy by the name of Victor Coopers, I believe is his name, and he put up on his presentation a formula, which I found very interesting, because he said knowledge plus skills times attitude equals success. And basically what he was saying is that you can have knowledge, you can have the skills, and that's why he was adding those two. But then he said, you got to multiply that by the attitude. And I agree 100%, because that's a multiplier. And as Steve was saying, it's about showing up, it's about being there with the hard work. But those that have the right attitude and the commitment are the ones that eventually, continue having success. And I think that's one piece of advice that I've always kept in mind, and I always, provide to the people that also ask for a little bit of guidance. And I think it's about obviously understanding the knowledge, the skills, but it's the attitude, it's the passion that one brings, it's the hard work that one brings to the table that many times multiplies it and makes a difference for those that that have success in the industry. So a little bit of my piece of advice from that standpoint. But great question. Really glad to have you online tonight. So looking forward to continue to engage with you and hope those Buckeyes keep doing well.
Oh, let's not talk about them for now. That was a painful loss in the final.
Oh boy, I tell you. Okay, Grecia. Well, nice
thank you.
Take care. All the best. Okay, Steve. So maybe we'll take one or two more, and then we'll wrap things up. So let's see who we have here. I know Juan had a question. So Juan is also a former SBI student, and he had a question about partnership activations. He works a lot with sponsors, so I'll bring him on and get his question. So Juan, you should be able to have your microphone on now.
Awesome. Hi, Diego. Hi, Steve. How are you guys?
Hey, Juan. How you doing?
Good to see you.
Doing well. You as well. Steve, so my question was, it was very interesting to hear your career path. I live here in Florida, in Orlando,
yep.
And I interned with Orlando City on the sponsorship side.
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot of interest. It's a really interesting field for me. And my question to you was, what was one of the most interesting activations that you were able to work on with the sponsors during your time with Manchester City?
Ooh. Yeah, okay. There's a few. Yeah, that's a good question. There's lots. I mean, and of course, there's a difference between maybe ones that were successful because we achieved the targets, or we were able to show the metrics and the KPIs that we were looking for. So that could have been reach and engagement. So when I did, one of the things that we did do was we started a branded content series with Etihad, which we went around the world looking for fans of Manchester City who were living in the destinations that Etihad flew to. The reason that was good and fun was I had never worked with a production team before in a production studio. I'd never had to challenge them to make sure that we spoke about our partner Etihad in the right terms. So I had to learn a lot about the brand that maybe I didn't know before. And we had millions of views for the episodes that we created. So and we worked with some local talent that was great. So that was one that I enjoyed, and that was probably one where I learnt a lot. But then you have from that extreme down to one of my favourites is just, and this is just one of those things that it's the way circumstances were. The Tourism Board of Abu Dhabi was a sponsor, and they basically, the whole communication, the whole reason there was to talk about Abu Dhabi as a holiday destination, because nobody really knew where Abu Dhabi was or what they offered. And at the time, 2011, 2012, maybe it was struggling for people to look at it as a potential destination above Dubai. So we were in this discussion, but one of the things that they did have is they were a destination for the round the world yacht race. And so we ended up working with them on creating a land yacht race outside of the Etihad Stadium. And we created a circuit which replicated Abu Dhabi and gave us the opportunity to talk to people about Abu Dhabi. And the reason that this one, for me, stuck was because the person who won the competition a little while later got in touch because the prize that she won was the trip to Abu Dhabi. And she ended up becoming a very good friend, and she ended up moving out to Abu Dhabi. So, talk about the way that networks build. That was interesting. But there are so many, and some of them that I wasn't involved with, but there was a great collaboration between Heineken and Xylem Water, who we took water from the estate in Manchester. If you were watching Manchester City tonight, it rains a lot up here. So they took rainwater collected on site. Xylem, through the systems that they have, purified it. It went to Heineken, and Heineken created beer from that water. So we did all sorts of great pieces. To be honest, there's not one, and you asking me here now, I am forgetting so many failures and so many great things, some that I was involved with directly and others not. But I mean, the big thing is the variety. And the big thing for me was I was lucky. I was surrounded by people who were very creative. So sometimes you would be stumped with what can we do without it being ridiculous, impossible. Sometimes, from kind of crazy ideas came the best ideas, but sometimes we had to rein things in. But it was, personally what I enjoyed most was that process and getting to delivery. And the best ones, as I say, I could spend a long time trying to think about the best ones. There was a lot that I was fortunate enough to be involved with.
Awesome. Well, no, thank you very much for sharing that, and I appreciate you taking the time as well to speak to us.
No, you're welcome, and good luck with Orlando City. I went to college up in St. Augustine, so I know Orlando well.
That's an amazing city. That's a great historical city. I love it there.
Yeah. And I actually played a game for Orlando before they were Orlando City against Bayer Leverkusen in the preseason. So I know Florida well.
That's awesome. That's good. Yeah, it's a really good stay here.
Juan, actually, before you leave, you're a student of the course, the football marketing and management course. So tell us a little bit about your experience. I mean, what did the course deliver to you?
Yeah, of course. No, for me personally, I think it was a really, really great experience just because I had the opportunity to connect with people all over the world. It's something that, I'm studying here in Orlando, but I, connect with people here in Orlando, people that live, locally. And so being part of the course, I think it was interesting to hear from people from China, from Europe, from Australia, from all over. And I think it was just a lot of insights and perspectives that I think on a daily basis you probably don't listen to. So to hear what students were sharing, it was just an eye opener, and it helps you bring things back to the club, bring things back to, organizations, and, just helps you add more value to wherever you're at. So I loved it.
Excellent. Well, really glad you enjoyed it, Juan, and glad that we were able to establish a relationship out of that course and continue to be in touch. So it's always great to engage with you and have you connect for the webinars, and obviously we're in touch. So keep those drones up in the air because we're following them and we're following you on social. So
I appreciate that, Diego.
All right. You take care, Juan. All the best.
Thank you.
Right. So, Steve, given the time, I think we're probably at a moment where we can wrap things up. Sorry for those of you guys that had some questions there at the end, but just trying to be respectful for everybody's time. And, of course, for Steve's time tonight, probably a good moment to wrap things up. If you have a question, just feel free to get in touch with us. We'd be happy to, set up a call or have a conversation with you and learn more about your objectives, your career, aspirations, and perhaps if you're thinking about doing some type of qualification, of course, think about what we offer and see if it fits right with what you're looking for and how you're looking to optimize your opportunities moving forward in the industry. That said, Steve, always a pleasure to connect with you and engage with you and learn from you. So really thankful for your time, and over to you for any final thoughts or comments based out of the session tonight.
No, thank you. It's always good. It's always great. Always very welcome. And that is true of the course as well. I mean, I have to say, even though I was maybe the most senior person, I was a little bit nervous. What was the course going to be like? But look where we are now. It was inclusive. It was interesting. It was diverse. So I learned a lot. And met great people. So I would wholeheartedly recommend the course. I genuinely would. No, I mean, I don't have any other pearls of wisdom, if I have any pearls of wisdom at all. What I would say, people feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm there. And if I can help, I will. And if I can't, I'll tell you I can't. So I'm more than happy, but I would definitely recommend Sports Business Institute. It helped me. So I'd like to think it can help others too. So good luck to everybody. If you do sign up, enjoy, and then you can join the WhatsApp group. And Diego, I hope all goes well, and we'll keep in touch as we always do. Absolutely. Thank you, Steve. No, I appreciate the kind words. It's always nice to get validation from people that have done the program, and we've heard that tonight. So, and of course, coming from you, it's always a great pleasure. If you want to join the SBI family, and that's what we call ourselves, and as you saw here tonight, a couple of the former students coming on board and just impromptu asking questions and being part of the conversation. That's what we aim at SBI. We want to create a community that's collaborative, that's growing together, that's learning together. And if you want to form part of it, we're here and we'll be on your team and on your side, helping you achieve your goals in the industry. That said, get in touch with us, either myself, Emma, Xavi from our team. We're able to help you with anything you want to know about the program. And just to say thank you, because your time is very valuable and you've spent an hour and 13 minutes with us here tonight. So it's time for everybody to go home and relax and enjoy your evening, your morning, or your afternoon, wherever you're connected from. So thanks again, Steve. Look forward to keeping in touch. And to everybody connected tonight, all the best. See you soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody. Bye.